Hi everyone. Today's show is going to be a little bit different than the previous two episodes. I am fighting off the COVID, I'm getting very little sleep, and my head feels like it's going to explode. Much like when I'm preparing for a forecast review. All joking aside, I hope everyone's being healthy and safe and smart. Before we begin, I have hired a hip local youth, and I have them here today, a master of YouTube, with a message for all of you watching me.
What's going on, guys? That was my dad. He's talking about business or something. I don't really know. But I'm here to tell you, if you've been enjoying the content on this channel, go right down below the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave us a comment telling us what you think. It's a great way to support the channel, really helps out with the algorithm, and you see more of the content you want on your feed. Alright, back to my dad.
Thank you, Alex. Let's get right into it with 3 hard lessons that I learned when I was first starting out as a project planner and scheduler. First off, when working with engineers to construct a schedule, everyone around is an optimist. When I was building my first few schedules many years ago, I noticed that most of the planned activity durations were either 5 days, 10 days, or about 20 days. 1 week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks. Weeks are good. I like to think in weeks. And if that's the appropriate level of detail or granularity for your schedule, then go with it. The problem is this. As I quickly learned during execution of those first projects, those same activities tended to consume 1 month, 2 months, or even 4 months. And I swear that some of those 20-day activities are still going on somewhere right now, even decades later. Here's what I was not doing well enough. I was not asking questions. Now, this could be called challenging the estimate. Now, I don't like to use the word challenge with the engineers. It sounds confrontational, like 2 of us will enter a conference room and only 1 of us will leave. So it's not that kind of challenge. Here are some questions you can ask when an estimate seems a little bit fishy. 5 days. Sounds like a good estimate. Is that all the time, or is that when you have the resources primed and ready to go, fully read in on the program? And that's just not always the case. Some resources might not even know that they're assigned to a particular activity till it's nearly underway. It's just the reality of, matrixed environments. Often when asked about a 1 week or 2 week estimate, the engineer would then caveat the estimate by saying, well, assuming I can get the resources, depending on your firm, that could be a bold assumption. As, like I said, in many environments today, resources are spread across different programs and projects. Project managers might even be vying for their attention for their project. And so I might ask, 5 days? Is that with a 100% dedicated resource that's already ready to go? I might also ask, how long did this take on your last project? And I might bring a copy of the last project with the actual durations as a part of the discussion. This really goes back to trust, but verify the reasonableness of the estimate in this particular environment with these particular resources. Finally, I might ask, does this task ever go longer than 5 days? And if so, what does that look like? That's when I might just be quiet and let the engineer speak up. And that's when risks tend to be identified. The answer might be, well, it's 5 days if the components pass testing the first time through, and then it's easy. And then I might ask how often they pass the first time through. And if it's not 100% of the time, I think it's time to question that estimate a little bit more and come up with something that allows for some flexibility if those components don't pass. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to negotiate the project into a longer duration, but I am trying to ensure that we have the most reasonable, most likely forecast possible. And if there's optimism bias in many of the estimates, the project may forecast an on-time completion on day 1, but then quickly start slipping out in the future, even during the early phases of the project. On one hand, I like that humans tend to be optimistic. To me, that's just a better, more fun way to live. However, in project planning, it can be a dangerous art or even a liability. So steering the team members towards a more candid realism, considering risk, may be the order of the day. It's like a swamp in here. Okay, we're gonna do this. Number 2, when statusing the schedule, and some of those estimates were too optimistic, you may find that some activities are reported between 75 and about 90% complete last month, but they also then did not finish this month. And the engineer or manager has informed you to move the finish date to next month. No problem. Scheduling tools make it easy to add to the remaining duration or set an expected finish date or, however you'd like to handle it. Here's the problem. That same engineer tells you to do that with a number of their tasks. And then the next engineer explains how many of their tasks will also finish next month. And pretty soon, it seems like every scheduled activity that was supposed to be done by now will, in fact, finish next month. But you start looking at the schedule, and this, folks, is called a bow wave. You've moved so much work out to next month that you would need to double, triple, or even quadruple the execution team in size simply to address the number of activities that have now piled into next month. No one engineer decided to do that on their own. It takes a team full of optimists to create a bow wave. And then it's up to you, the program planner or program control analyst, to say, hold up. We would need many, many more resources than we have right now to finish all that work next month. We're either going to have to allocate more resources to the project or spread the work out into the future so that our existing resources have time to get it all done. And holidays and competing project priorities can skew this even further. The antidote to this lesson is a quality schedule that ebbs and flows as the work adjusts. More on that in just a moment in number 3. And it also comes down to your own confident and proactive ability to raise these concerns as they're unfolding, as the schedule is being updated, rather than to simply push all the tasks to next month, save the schedule, and just start running reports. Okay, here's number 3. It's a big one. Your schedule may not be as good as you think it is. You've done the homework. You've got all of the information in from the engineers. You've got it from the planning leads, subcontractors, material management. You've got it planned the way it was proposed to the customer. You've done a good job. You're on cloud 9. You've got what you consider to be a nearly perfect project plan. Give me 5. And then on the first month of the project, half of the activities that were supposed to start didn't. Material that wasn't set to be ordered for a year is somehow already arrived, so you're pulling some activities in. And 3 of the engineers that helped you plan the project, they're now working on a different project. And all of a sudden, the schedule has turned into and the only mistake that you made is that you're surprised. As we mentioned earlier, when the schedule does not ebb and flow properly with these unexpected changes, it may not have been the ultimate schedule that you believed it to be to begin with. It's not the end of the world. Schedule changes are common, even on an in-flight schedule. But there are some things that you can do to minimize problems with the schedule before all these sudden changes start occurring. For one, there's software out there that will help you verify the overall integrity of the schedule. I cut my teeth with Acumen Fuse. There's one called SteelRay, the great SSI tools. There's solutions from Innate, another called Schedule Validator, and a very interesting newer cutting edge one called Nodes and Links. These tools can help you to assure that everything is linked up, even with those non-critical paths that can sneak up on you during execution. And it's never a bad idea to run some of these validity checks to see where you stand, both at baseline and during execution of the project. Even with some of those great tools, though, there's never a bad time to go into the schedule on your own, just in the scheduling tool itself, especially with the baseline, and mess with the durations. Just have fun. Add 50 days to a 10-day activity. What happens to the rest of the schedule? Does it stay in place? Does it reflect a 50-day slip to the project? Or does something entirely unexpected and unreasonable happen? No tool that validate schedules can truly tell you if your schedule will hold up to the sometimes chaotic dynamics of a changing schedule. So I recommend performing some of these checks manually. Get your hands dirty in the schedule. Break a critical relationship in the schedule. Does it fold in half? Or is there sufficient logic in the schedule to still hold the structure and the handoffs inherent to the execution of that type of project? As for myself, I've created baseline schedules that cratered under the slightest, simplest revisions. And I've made others more carefully with more time spent, where changes and variances were nearly always properly reflected without the scheduling falling to pieces. Can a schedule be fragile? Yes. A schedule certainly can, especially when that change management piece comes in. That's all for today. I'm going back to bed. Stay hydrated, stay safe and healthy, and I will talk to you all again next week.
Alright guys, that was another banger video from my dad. Remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment. See you next time.
Furthermore, what I... sweating. Yeah.